It's the I Can't Mom Today podcast with Heather, the new mom, and Vera, the seasoned mom. I Can't Mom Today.
Hey, this is Vera and Heather back again with another episode of I Can't Mom Today podcast. Hi, Vera.
Hey, Heather. How's it hanging?
It's it's June already. How did
Right.
I didn't miss any months.
Yeah, it certainly feels like June.
Why is January always the longest month?
Maybe because you're like, yay, it's a new year, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get moving and everything's going to be great. And then it's like, wah, wah.
I feel like it's every January. It just takes forever. You're like, holy cow. And then the rest of the year, like, boom.
Or maybe because you're trying to do your resolution and you're trying to get through at least the first month and it feels really long.
You're like, this sucks.
Yeah. Like I have a girlfriend who's doing dry January and literally she'll send a text and she's like, 13 more days. She's got less than a week. What? It's the 30 days come September, April, June. I know. Okay. So 31 days in January.
You use your knuckles.
So, yeah. And so she's less than a week now. Yeah.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So by the time this airs though, it'll be February. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see where I'm at. So happy February.
Yippee!
So what's new in your world?
Oh, it is not. Speaking of long months, it's been a really rough, even though deep down, and I didn't want to be a naysayer because everybody was saying 2020 sucked so bad. I was so looking forward to 2021 and blah, blah, blah. And I knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, the world and all the negativity that's been floating around doesn't have any idea what day it is on the calendar. It doesn't mean it's just going to end abruptly on December 31st at midnight. So I kind of knew. So then sure enough, Luke is epileptic. He had a seizure on New Year's Day because he didn't take his medicine. He went too long. He took his medicine, but he went too long between doses. Mm-hmm. So that happened. So I got a call from luckily he's okay. Thank God. But, I get a call from the hospital New Year's Day. Mom, the good news or the bad news? I'm like, just tell me the news. And I'm fine, but I had a seizure. And thank God his girlfriend was with him in the hospital. And I was like, well, at this point, unfortunately, we're familiar with the drill. And I said, well, it's New Year's Day during a pandemic. I don't know if it's a great idea for all of us to be descending upon the hospital, especially now he's 18. So he doesn't really need me there. And even though it hurt my little heart.
He's a big boy.
Exactly. Like your first instinct is you want to run over there, even though we're familiar with everything that's going to happen. And we've been through it before. My first instinct was to run and be with him, but I had to kind of take a step back. I'm, letting the birdie out of the nest. And said, well, do you need me? Because you don't need me technically. And he said, well, no, I think I'm okay. My girlfriend's here. And so, yeah. So so she stayed with him. God bless her. She was so awesome. And so that happened New Year's Day. And then he and his girlfriend got into a car accident. Again, thank God. They're okay. Yes. That happened about 2 weeks ago. So that happened. And again,
who's driving?
She was.
Okay.
But again, it was one of those things where there was an accident on the side of the road and, the police have their lights flashing. And I don't know about you, but this has happened to me before where you see the lights flashing and you're almost like, ooh, lights. Like you're not even trying to look at the accident. You just get distracted by the lights and you have to make a purpose, a point not to stare at them and just keep going. Mm-hmm. And I think what happened is she got distracted by the lights. The person in front of her braked or whatever, and she rear-ended the person in front of her. So again, thank God they're all okay, but I think her car is pretty smushed. The airbag went off and everything, but the good kids, they had their seatbelts on. If they hadn't had their seatbelts on, they would have been really injured. So that happened. And poor thing, I felt so bad. I mean, she was so shaken up, but understandably. And I said, well, you see, that's why parents are so boring because we've lived through some of this stuff and we know that it can happen. So we're always trying to keep you guys from having to live through this stuff so that you're safe. And so that was my mini lecture. So that happened. And then a week or so ago, 10 days ago or so, Jerry couldn't pee, my husband Jerry. And he's had issues with his prostate. We know it's enlarged or whatever, and so he's on I think it's called Flomax, which helps him pee. Well, Saturday, a couple weeks ago, he decided he can't pee. And luckily my stepson was here. So he had texted his urologist and was like, what do I do? And the urologist was like, well, try sitting in a hot bath and see if that stimulates something. And so me and my stepson are filling up the bathtub with hot water and trying to get him, nothing, giving him cranberry juice, thinking maybe he has a UTI. Nothing. Finally, he was like, no, I think I need to go to the ER. And the urologist said that. He's like, yeah, if nothing's happening at this point, you need to go. So luckily they just opened one of those small ERs down the street. And we went to that and they gave him a colostomy bag. What do you call it? A catheter.
That fits.
That's not going to help much. That wrong hole. Sorry. So anyway, they
Probably
gave
not
him
the
a
first time he says
catheter.
that too.
Yeah, exactly. So they gave him a catheter and and said, okay, well, this should help, so he's got this big, bag of pee. And they said, call your urologist on Monday. So we called the urologist and the lady on the phone was like, oh, honey, no, you got to have that thing in for a week. He was like, what? For a week? Because you can imagine, this is where I have a little bit of sympathy for a man. They got to stick that tube up the wiener. That's not like us where it's, a little different.
I mean,
so,
it's still a very tiny hole.
True, but there's I'd imagine there's a longer way to go because you got to go through the wiener and then through the urethra and up to the bladder, I don't know. I'm no doctor. So he was having trouble sleeping.
No.
It was awful. So he spent the whole week. And of course, then half the time he's like, man, but warning, bad word. Okay. Man, my dick hurts. My dick hurts. Man, my dick hurts. And I just have to hear it like a few times a day as wandering around the house. My dick hurts. Like, I'm sorry, and he can barely get up and down. Of course, I have my RA, which really hurts and with the weather and everything. So the two of us are just like old and walking around the house like
You're like 100 and you're
exactly. Well, we're not. That's the sad part is we're not. And it was just like, hey, while you're up, can you get me a cup of coffee? It was just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Luke has been very helpful and, doing stuff for us and everything. And then just found out that after they took the thing out after a week and I was like, praise the Lord. I don't have to hear about how his dick hurts all the time. He couldn't pee again that night. This was just a couple days ago. And sure enough, they were like, yeah, we think you're going to be okay. It's just basically he needs to get the inflammation of his prostate down. And they think that he can between the Flomax and the and changing his diet. So he needs to, at least for now, not have any coffee, not have any alcohol. Not have like red meat, all the inflammatory spicy food, like all of his favorite things. Can't have. Yeah. So I was like, hey, welcome to my world, my anti-inflammatory diet. Like, woo, now you get to see how much of a pain in the ass it is. So yeah. So that's been my year so far. So now I've got another week of, man, my dick hurts. Although I did get him a so this finally the nurse at the urologist's office said get some bacitracin and that'll help to put in the edge that'll help with the tube because basically the problem is like every time he'd move around it would hurt it would irritate it the hole. So I got him some bacitracin with pain relieving stuff in it and that's helped. So he probably says his dick hurts like once a day instead of 5 now.
That sounds like
so there you go. That's my year so far in a nutshell.
That sounds like fun.
It's very fun. But that brings me to what I was thinking about was how, that was the other thing he said to me the other day. We were both lying in bed watching a movie or something. And he said, are you going to get up? And I was like, in a little bit, maybe. And he's like, oh, I could use some ginger ale. or some ginger ale and some popcorn. And I was like, and then some time goes by and he's like, I guess that's not going to happen, huh? And I was like,
No.
now. And he was like, well, I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, what? There's nothing
You
wrong
just
with me.
started your medicine again.
Yeah, because I went off my RA medicine because I was afraid because of COVID. So after now being off of it and the wintertime, I'm in serious, like, honestly, like there's something that hurts on me all the time and moving hurts. So getting in and out of bed hurts. Moving, even turning over in bed hurts. And I try not to say anything because who wants to listen to somebody saying how they're in pain all the time? So I was ready to smack him.
It.
There's nothing. I'll call you next time, or I'll just send you a text. My elbow hurts. My knees hurt. My neck hurts. So I was, like he just totally forgot that I still have, like, now because of my hands, they're all stiff and hurt. And I'm trying to get him to help me pull socks off because if they're long, I can't get them off. And so I'm like, do you not realize that? No, because he's so distracted by the fact that his stupid dick hurts. I'm going to have to put in an explicit warning on this particular episode, but that's okay. No little kid wants to listen to this anyway. So that brought me to the topic of, do men have a lower tolerance of pain than women? Mm-hmm. What do you think? What has been your experience?
I think it's I think it's a little bit of both. Because I've heard from a lot of women about people, husbands crying about things and, hurting and stuff like that. And like my dad is super manly and doesn't, he doesn't really share that he's hurting. He'll be like, oh, it hurts a little bit. I'm like, you have to be honest, Dad. Like, you can't just be like, this doesn't hurt me. I'm so strong. And then and for the most part, Brad's really good at not, saying something hurts, like he's had chronic pain for years. And, but there's some times where I'm like, you're exaggerating. It can't be that bad. Like we had, years ago when Baker was a little tiny baby. My dad and I got really terrible food poisoning. The guy who went to the emergency room, like that's how bad the food poisoning was. And Brad was like, oh, I think I've got it. I was like, you don't have it. It was food poisoning. Like, I was like, you don't have it. But it was probably just exhaustion, honestly. So it was very legitimate, but it just wasn't the same. I was like, stop it.
Help me out. Brush it off.
No sympathy.
No,
but I think it is it's a legitimate concern by a lot of women. I mean, I saw a meme where it was like something about a man came into the emergency room, with the flu, and people were like, false. A man would be dead if they had the flu or something like that. So that's what
that big, joke about if men had to bear children, that there'd be, the population would die out on the planet. Men wouldn't be able to handle it.
I don't think that's fair either, because I mean, first of all, coming from a completely different area, they would have to reorganize their private parts. But
yes,
I know I've seen videos where people hook up a man to a something that simulates contractions.
I've seen that.
I feel like a woman would react the same way a man would react when that's hooked up. But I think the difference is that when you are in labor, your mind is, you've prepared. Like you may not know the pain and you're kind of like, what am I doing? But you're essentially prepared for that. And so I think that's just a different situation. It would be like anything, going into anything. And it would be like going into anything and being mentally prepared for it. And that's your body's supposed to work like that. Now, I will say that I am probably more leaning towards the man side than the woman side. I am a little dramatic, if you can't tell. Years ago, I had ankle surgery to prepare, to repair some serious damage I did to my ankle from falling. And when I woke up, I was in the most amount of pain I have ever been in my entire life, even childbirth. And I woke up, I'm like, I'm dying. Like, I know other people were like, there was a mental patient and was recovering at the same time I was. I guarantee it, because I was so obnoxious. But I was in the most amount of pain I've ever been in. And the fact that I'm dramatic also did not help the situation. And so they wound up doing a nerve tap to kill that. But at that point, like, I'd been flipped upside, over so they could react, to act or so they could access, that's the word I'm thinking, access the nerve. And so I was nauseous from the the anesthesia. I'm like, digging around in I'm like, and so when they get done, they have to call Brad and say, she has to be in here a little longer. And that's when I was screaming. I was like, tell him I'm dying. It was terrible.
Well, going back to what you said about childbirth and preparing, for me, if I know what the pain is, like, and I don't have the anxiety that can be attached to pain, then I can usually handle it. Like during childbirth, I was like, okay, but you know what's going on. Like, it's normal for me to be in pain right now. I'm in pain because of blah. But if you're in pain and you don't really know what the hell's going on, I think then it gets magnified and you're just like, why am I in pain? What the hell's going wrong? Why am I broken? So that changes things for me significantly. The anxiety of not knowing why you're in pain, if you're in pain.
Yeah.
But I did find an article. It's on medicinenet.com. So I feel like it's a fairly credible source that actually says that, I don't know if I want to agree, but it actually says that they have found that men actually do have a higher tolerance for pain than women, not what we've all assumed, and that women have a lower tolerance for pain. Now, this is according to there's an oral medicine guy in Washington, and then there's a guy, University of Florida, that they did. There's several. It's interesting to me that these were all like dentists and oral surgeons. But
that's extreme pain. Like that pain.
Yeah, maybe that's why, because
it's like different than other pain.
Yeah, and we all have mouths, so
we do.
It's not like it's not like you're comparing the pain in your wiener compared to the pain in your uterus. But so they say, according to what they did, how they did this, and again, that's where it makes me question the results. But they said that they would give women and men a tinge of heat, like, using the heat as like a little bit of a burn, as like your pain, as your example for pain. And, and obviously
in their mouth?
Increasing it. It doesn't say where they would do it, but I don't know. I would assume, because these are all oral people. So anyway, but they said that women would say that something hurt at a lower threshold. Thank you. Other than men. So men would like sit, but see, to me, that makes me think, well, maybe we're just say so before they do during the study.
Yeah,
like
that's what I was going to say.
That societal thing.
Men are like bigger babies with their spouses than they are with medical professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
At home, like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Do you think they would call their doctor and be like, I'm dying? Like, I would. I'm very transparent. But yeah, I think that that's also something that should be investigated. Like, how can you measure that accurately? Because I feel like that might be something that people are like, I'm gonna outperform my wife on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a machismo that goes with it somewhere. Yeah. So that's where I did try to find a study where they could actually. It's also very complicated, because they did say, and this was interesting too, they did say that they theorized too that women respond to pain differently around their periods, like before and during their periods.
Like better?
No, that we're more sensitive to it. I remember this. Yes. And I remember this because I went in when I tried to do laser hair removal on my legs, even though it didn't work very well.
Like I remember that as well.
Yes. And I went in one time when I had my period, and I remember saying to the technician, I was like, it hurts more today than usual. And but I have my period. So do you think that that's connected? And she said, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
Hmm.
She's like, "I'm sorry. I would have told you. Like sometimes I tell people to try and schedule now when they're not on their periods because for some reason it seems to hurt more." Isn't that
Interesting.
weird? So yeah, even in this article with the oral people, they say that there is a theory that even hormones can affect how you perceive pain. So
Hmm.
it's very difficult for them to measure. Because, like I said, I tried to find an article that said, "Well, we hooked them up to the how much pain do you feel machine," and like it's really so hard for them to measure it exactly. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah, I think they
still,
should do like a study of what they've reported to their spouse. Like, oh, that could be a great study. Is these
yeah.
people come in and they go and the doctor does, the pain threshold or whatever. Then they interview the spouse without knowing.
Mm.
And the spouse asks the man, like, or the kid, whatever, whoever is going or is with that person, hey, how did it feel? And then they can tell the truth.
Yeah. There you
There we
go.
go.
Like,
Here we
uh,
go.
yeah. Because see, if they say something that, well, yeah, it was really painful and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Or if it's that was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. That's a good point. Yeah. See, there's so many factors. That's why I don't know. I think the study could be wrong. I still think that men can handle it as much as we can.
If I know nothing about women, we tell the truth.
That's right. We absolutely tell the truth. So yeah, but I thought it was interesting anyway, at the very least. But why would, like you said, so many women say that their significant others are much more prone to
Overwhelming amount.
mm-hmm.
And maybe it's that women don't have compassion for their spouses. Like that's their time when they just get to take a break and be like, okay, like I'm sick and I'm just gonna embrace it. And we're like, get
Yeah.
up, you lazy ass, did it.
I don't tell him that I try and wait on him. He gets like demanding. It's really
Oh.
annoying. Like the popcorn and ginger ale thing, it's like, really, dude? And then like I'll be up and I'll say, I'll try and say, well, I'm up, so I've already gone through the pain of getting up. So do you need anything? And he'll be like, no, I'm fine. Or if you would, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it'll just be like, oh, get me this and don't do that, and he'll start telling me how to get him stuff. And that's
Oh,
when I want to throw something across the room. Like,
oh,
really?
interesting.
Yeah, don't tell me you're getting it however I managed to get it to you.
I
Okay.
feel like this is also a conversation Brad and I have with me being
Really?
demanding.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I can't say for sure, but I feel like maybe we've had that conversation.
It's funny. Well, and he'll like, well, because too, I feel like he's so, he's been kind of needy. And again, don't get me wrong, I love him so much and I want to take care of him and do nice things but I'm not feeling, if I were 100%, I think it would be a lot easier for me to handle, but I'm not. So it's just like, oh, what do you want now? And so, but he's just like, I'll like go in the bedroom and just watch my trashy TV and he'll be in the living room and then he'll come in, him and Barry the bag. That's what I named the the bag of pee, Barry the bag. So the two of them will come in and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you need something? Well, no, I was just gonna come and sit in here with you. And inwardly I'm like, damn it. Just watch my trashy TV. Like,
Then
can
you
you
maybe
and
should
Barry
set
watch some football?
maybe you should set like the expectation. Like if you come, I would love for you to join me, but you realize I'm watching some trashy TV. So like there's no commenting, right?
Oh yeah, well, see, the problem is that then he'll try and watch the trashy TV with me. Like, I love 90 Day Fiance. That's one of my
Okay.
my secret pleasures.
Mhm.
And he'll come in and then he'll be like, "So wait a minute, who's that?" Because he'll watch like a couple episodes here and there and then lose, place and then come back and start talking to me and asking me questions while it's on.
Mm.
So then I'll pause it and be like, that's so and so's brother who moved to the Philippines, and that's why, and he's pissed off at him, and they're not talking to each other. Okay, okay. I press play, and then 30 seconds later. So wait a minute. So he also got was
Okay, I'm going to tell you something that's going to add a little bit of joy to this. So, sorry, there's a lot of noise going on in my house because
It's okay. I have
another
the
human
I don't
being in my
know.
house.
Yeah, same here.
So there's this show, TLC's 1,000-Pound Sisters, and it's
Yes, I
Tammy
have
and
watched
Amy.
it. Yes.
And one thing they like get in an argument because she's like, "Do you need anything?" Or I can't remember which sister, but we only remember the name Tammy. And
Yeah.
so we're like,
Amy's the
"Anything
other
else,
one.
Tammy?" And so like we say that to each other when the other person's being demanding.
Anything else,
Whatever,
Tammy?
to kind of make it a little joking, but also make sure that it's you're aware of what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's a friendly half kidding, as my mother would say, half kidding way of saying, okay, what the F?
Yep.
I'll get it for you, but enough already. Yeah, that's what I should do. Only Jerry wouldn't. He'd be like, "Who's Tammy?" I'd be like, "It's on that show with the two women who are like really overweight. One of them's pregnant, and she shouldn't be pregnant, but she's pregnant anyway.
Oh,
and
is
the
she?
other one gained all of her weight back. Yeah, you haven't kept up?
No,
Ooh,
I've only
ruin it
seen
for you.
that one outtake.
Oh, yeah, I've actually watched the episodes.
Okay.
I'm all caught
Okay.
up. One of
Well,
them's
good.
pregnant. She had the gastric bypass, and sorry, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who's watching it, but yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one gained her weight back. It's really sad. It's sad, but they're funny. They've got such funny personalities.
Let's put a poll up on our Facebook page and go over and take the poll. First of all, join our Facebook page.
Yes.
Today podcast on Facebook
Yes.
and take a poll, and we'll say who has a higher pain tolerance, you or your spouse.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That'll be on the group, not the page. I always forget. We have both. We have the I Can Mom Today podcast page, which really mostly we just use that to post the actual episodes. And then the group is much more interactive and also has the episodes on it. But that's the one because it's private. So that way, if you want to say anything, there's only, a little less than 500 of us right now.
Yeah.
There'll be more.
Yeah. So go check us out there.
That.
And we'll be happy to compile some other data outside of that. If you want to just email us personally, because you don't want to tell people.
Yes.
We're happy to include that in the account.
Yeah, I Can't Mom Today podcast at Gmail is our email. And then of course we're on Instagram and Twitter as well too, if you want to reach out that way.
Yes.
And
I Can't Mom Today podcast everywhere.
And YouTube. Yes. We're everywhere. And don't forget to rate us. Rate the podcast, please.
Yes. Go into your podcast app. Super simple. Quick.
Yeah, I should probably go so I can check on Jerry and bury the bag.
All right, good luck. Until next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.